Hello everyone and welcome to In Sync. Today's episode is all about human design and how it can help to grow and maximize everyone's potential. For this, I'm joined by the wonderful Maike Gabriela, who is a deconditioning expert and human design reader and helps people find their way back to their authenticity. Through her deep knowledge of psychology and human design, she helps to solve self-sabotaging patterns and blockages so that people can pursue their true calling and step into their highest potential, which is truly a beautiful mission. So welcome, Maike. How are you feeling today?
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to finally have you on the podcast. I actually said it just before. Human design is a topic that's quite new to me, and I think it's quite new to the world.
Yes, I think it's coming. I feel it's coming. It's super interesting. It's fascinating.
Yes. So before we dive into that, tell us a bit about your story. Who are you, what makes you, and how did you arrive at the human design work?
So I've lived many lives. I come from the fashion world. I used to work as a high fashion model for many years. I also was a musician and toured in Spain. And then I had a vocal cord operation. Anyways, I was working in fashion for many years. And 3.5 years ago now, with the birth of my daughter, human design came into my life. At the time, I had a sustainable underwear brand and I was working many hours. And even though I was seeing some success, I wasn't seeing the success I thought was the one that I should be seeing for the amount of work that I was putting in. And I was feeling a lot of resistance, and I just didn't understand why, because I was doing things similarly to how everybody was doing them, how I was taught that this is the way that you achieve things, working super hard, many hours, reaching out to all kinds of people. I'm just hustling and just putting everything into it. And with the birth of my daughter, it was like, okay, so I can't continue having two life projects at the same time. So like your own business and your child, it was very intense. So at some point, I just realized that I was close to my third burnout before 30 years of age. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on my kid for a while and see what's happening, what's going on. Why do I feel so much resistance? And that's when I design, and I found out that I was a projector, and everything made sense. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing knowledge. Everybody has to know about human design. This makes you understand yourself. It makes you understand everything. For me, it was just such an epiphany. And I remember telling my friends, and I bought the book online, and I was like, yeah, I was just like super fascinated, started like trying to do small readings for my friends. And I continued in fashion, and I was like a creative director and photography and whatever. And then with the beginning of the year, this year, I was like, I don't have a tool. I don't know if a war happens, I don't know how to cut hair. I don't know to do something basic. Like I'm super creative, but I don't have something that I can actually do with my hands. And I remember like friends of mine going to dinner and afterwards like playing a guitar and like thanking them for their meal with their music. And I was like, I don't have anything that I can share with other people that's practical. So even though this sounds maybe a bit weird, I decided human design was going to be my practical thing that I'm going to learn so I can like share with friends, and I don't know. And then I started studying to become a professional human design reader in the beginning of the year. And who knew? Pandemic happened. And then all my creative, artistic, fashion related jobs froze. And I was like, okay, so looks like I'll have to start sharing with the world that coming out of the spiritual closet, I love human design. So really, it was great. I don't know if I would have been able to share with the world and with the world on my Instagram, but I don't know if I would have been able to share this knowledge or my passion for it if the pandemic wouldn't have happened, because it really pushed me to the edge. Okay, what am I going to do? So I started sharing about human design, and the amazing. Doing the readings is just like one of my favorite things in the world to do, because I get to show people how unique and special they are in this world. And I really feel like very fulfilled.
That's amazing. That's such a beautiful story. And I think the pandemic, as dramatic as it is, it has really had a few advantages as well, because we were forced to, really tune in and see what is it that we want to bring out into the world. And yeah, it takes a lot of courage as well to do that. I think it's beautiful what you do.
Thank you.
because I've been anticipating this interview, I have been reading up a little bit about the topic and listened to a few podcasts as well. And then I stopped myself from doing so because I got so excited about it and really dive into something. And I thought, no, I need to wait for this interview with you to ask you about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Or
I think it's super important to be able to find a couple of sources that you really trust with human design, because I've had clients come to me and be like, yeah, they've told me I'm like this and this, and it's super bad and horrible. And I'm like, it couldn't be further away from what human design is than making you feel bad or that you can't succeed in life or whatever. Like, it's completely the opposite. So it's because it's such an ancient knowledge, because it comes from astrology, the ancient I Ching, the mystic side of Judaism, which is Kabbalah, and the chakra system, because the language is really old. A lot of things can get lost in translation and sound really dark if you look them up yourself on the internet, like doomsday kind of words. So it's really important to find sources you trust, where you know that people are doing things with good intentions.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Then maybe let's actually start there. For somebody, or knowing that it is a fairly new concept and people don't really know what it is, including myself, would you describe human design? Is it a methodology? Is it a system? And what's the objective and the purpose of the whole thing?
Human design is called the revolutionary system of self-discovery. It is the science of our energetic body. It's the science of our aura. When you look up your human design, you get something called the body graph. And the body graph is a unique map of your genetic coding. And everything in our life is energies. This glass of water that I'm holding here is energy. Objects are energy. People have energy. Life opportunities, everything is an exchange of energy. And when we don't understand our own energetic imprint, we start moving in a way that's not authentic to us. And that's when we can feel resistance. And what I always say is, the example that I make is that we come into this world and our soul is whole. And all the things that we are meant to experience in this world, all the relationships we're meant to discover, have, all the material things that we're meant to try, they're all up here in like an iCloud, right? I'm showing that it's like floating above my head for the people listening. The soul is like in the middle, in the center of our chest. And we have this iCloud where all the things that we want reside. And the aura is like the bridge that connects and has a clear communication from our soul to the things that are meant for us in this world. What happens is that we grow up with the conditioning. Because when we are born, we're so dependent on love that to survive, that their conditioning, their limiting beliefs, when we do something that they don't like and are subjected to, they're taking away their love from us or their approval from us, parts of ourself, of our authentic self, get stuffed into our stomach, get stuffed down into ourselves. And so the conditioning progress starts. So all this conditioning starts to get onto the aura. It's like this, just conditioning that doesn't allow the aura to talk freely to what's supposed to come into their life. And in human design, we talk a lot about conditioning and deconditioning, because it's all about how can we strip away all these things that we are conditioned from. All these things, it's first our parents, then it's our teachers, then it's just life and society telling us how things have to be done, what is allowed, what is okay, what is not. And all of these things confuse the authenticity in our soul to communicate clearly with the things that we're meant to have. Subconsciously, our soul, we know all these images, all these dreams that we have for our life, they're unique to each and every one of us. If this conditioning doesn't allow us to communicate, we can't get to these things. But our subconscious knows, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want. But because we don't have clear communication, we start forcing things, we start pulling things, we try to get those things that we know subconsciously are meant for us. But since we can't reach them because of the conditioning, we feel resistance. So human design helps us to decondition, take all of these things out of our aura, so our aura can communicate clearly with the things that we're meant to experience in this world and feel flow in our life. It brings us back to who we are authentically. And that's the tool that human design is.
And how does it do that? I think you mentioned it has to do with astrology and energy, for example. And I remember when we spoke, you asked me what's my birth date and my birth time. So that
Yes.
must have somehow.
Yes. So the basics that you need to know to figure out what your human design is your birthday, birth hour is very important, and the place of birth. Those are the three things that are really important. And with that, you put it into this body graph and it figures out what your human design is. And we have 5 energy types. So you're going to be one of those 5 energy types, which is the projector, the generator, the manifesting generator, the manifester, and the reflector. Those are the 5 energy types that you can be in human design. Then there's a lot of like detailed information in each of us, but those are like the basics to get you started.
Interesting. So if, for example, like my birthday and my birth hour and the place that I was born in, if I would have a twin, actually, this is a good example, would they be the same type if they were twins?
It really depends. Sometimes twins aren't born the same second, so sometimes even that can make a difference. But I have yeah. Sometimes, yeah, it depends. It really depends. Sometimes an hour doesn't make any difference, but sometimes it's like a minute or half a minute, whatever, can make a difference. I have friends who are twins and they're the same energy type, but it's still, everything expresses itself differently. We're so subjected to epigenetics, to our surroundings. Even though your chart might look the same, it doesn't mean that chart is going to be the same.
This chart that you mentioned, is that accessible to everyone? Like,
that's totally free. That's totally free. So human design was a download by a guy in Ibiza called Ra-Uru. And he one night came to his house and there was this voice, and during 8 days he worked on putting all of this information down on paper. And he created the site called mybodygraph.com. And there is where everybody for free can check out their body graph. The funny thing is that if right now you're on body graph and you're checking out your graph, you'll be like, what? I don't understand anything. Because it looks like, I always say it's similar to like an old clock, when you like a watch, if you turn it and you have like the circuits. Mm-hmm. So that's how human design looks. It's like this very mechanic circuit kind of image.
I think I have 2 hearts in my chest beating about this, because on the one hand, I'm very rational on the one hand, and on the other hand, I'm very spiritual. When I hear this, for example, and hearing about the birth hour and all of that, to my rational mind, that seems to be quite random to actually have an impact on how you show up in the world. But from my spiritual point of view, and also having experienced certain struggles in my past where I put myself down a path that was just not meant to be, and now that I actually listen to my intuition, to what my soul is trying to tell me, it makes complete sense. So I think that the struggle or the difficulty here to actually popularize the topic would be to break it down in a scientific and easy to digest way that people will not be taken aback by astrology also, because there's a lot of woohoo out there as well.
Yes.
What do you think of
that? The science idea behind human design is that the information of who we are, so our soul, our prana, our chi, that information comes from a subatomical particle called neutrino, which has a lot of information for the small amount that it is, and that comes into our body 3 months before we are born. So that is like the scientific knowledge behind human design.
That's interesting.
I'm very creative. I do not come from a science background, so I'm not an expert. But what's interesting is that before human design was shared through Ra-Uru, people were like, oh no, the neutrino, it's like nothing, it's stardust, it's not interesting, like it doesn't have any importance. And after, like years after he talked about how there's consciousness in this neutrino filled with information, they tested it and discovered that is actually true. So he had this prophecy of this is really what's happening. and science hadn't catched up yet. But something that I find really interesting is also, I feel like science is sometimes maybe taken, I don't want to say overvalued, but that people are like, oh no, it's not scientific enough. But if we look at like science, things change. Things that we thought were absolutely clear in 10 years are like maybe even the opposite. So we sometimes really believe, no, science has the truth. And it's not always the case. A lot of times science is like, well, you know what, actually we found out things are completely different. So I think what you're saying is a super valid point. Another thing is that once you have a reading, like every time I have a reading, I like most of the time, I don't know who my client is. I have no idea about them. I meet them for the first time on our Zoom session. I just have their body graph, and just the effect of seeing them recognize being seen for the first time so fully through this graph. Until you don't have a reading, you can be a skeptic. But after you have a reading, it's just so mind-blowing that you're like, oh my God, how can this be? Really, it's quite fascinating.
I absolutely believe that. And this is learning through experience. So I have no doubt that once you go through the process and once you get that picture of yourself, you will feel it, you will believe it, you will throw away all those doubts. The reason why I'm coming from a scientific perspective right now, or this, my question was, what's the scientific aspect here, is because I personally, I'm completely more on the I experience, and what I experience is true to me. I don't need scientific proof at all. Like, I know what I see, what I experience, what I hear, done. But I have come to appreciate that for people to open their minds to spirituality, especially in a business context, they just want to know, is there some sort of scientific proof, or is there some sort of scientific entry point? And for example, the work that Joey Dispenza has been doing.
I had Joey Dispenza on my mind while you were saying that.
Yes, it's so fascinating. This guy, how he's been doing this for 30 years or so, and only now he's gaining on popularity. The way he explains energy on very scientific level, this is just what people don't even need to understand it in full detail. They just need to know energy exists. And what you said, like the cup is, or your glass is energy, we are energy collapsed in a physical body.
Yes.
And just knowing that there is some science behind it,
absolutely,
I think helps people to at least be open to the concept. This is at least my experience, and especially because this is what I'm trying to do with this platform and my ventures, is to bring in that spiritual approach into the business world. But I have to be very careful not to sound too out there. So that's why I was asking about this.
Absolutely. I totally understand. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's why also human design is so interesting, because it has this scientific entry point. And I'm sure that things will be proven through people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, through people like you who are trying to put it like more down to earth, that it's going to be more accessible to more people because of the scientific proof of things.
Yes, absolutely. And just to recap on what you said, so and what I understand is human design is really a tool to make you understand what your soul print is and let you design your life with a bit more ease and flow.
So human design can tell you what your role is in this life, what karma you've come here to correct, what your unique selling points are, so your unique talents. Okay, everybody has like very specific things that they're extremely good at, and we can figure out what your strengths are. So this is like talking about business. This is great because some people, just by being in the room, can really help solve a problem if there is like something that's not working, or if you put two people together, they match, create an energy that helps, I don't know, see projects through. There's a lot of really intricate details that are very fascinating if we get into the graph and into the like specific person. And yeah, and it allows you to understand how not to waste your energy. So a lot of people are burned out, a lot of people feel unmotivated, and it gives you like very The difference between human design and astrology and all these other more like esoteric tools is that it actually gives you very grounded advice on how to start implementing changes in your life. So we have the strategy, the authority that are really guiding you in how to implement human design in your life and see actual change.
Fascinating. And you said there are 5 different types, right?
Should we go through them?
Maybe
we talk a little bit about each and every one of them?
Yeah, I think maybe briefly would be good, for sure.
Okay, so in case you resonate or you're checking out in your body graph and you want to know more. So we have the projector, and the projector is 21% of 21%. They're here to be the guides. They have a special way of seeing systems, of seeing patterns, and they have a capacity to understand people they're very empathetic, and they understand people in a very deep way because their aura is like penetrating. And what's interesting about them is that they say that the new CEOs now are the projectors. There's the manifestor, and the manifestor historically were the kings and the conquerors, and they are those that have created movements, and they have a very strong aura, and they're here to initiate. They are only 7% of the population because they have a huge impact. And with social media and their big reach, we don't need as many manifestors as we used to. And the interesting thing about manifestors is that their energy is very strong, and they can initiate, so start projects, get people excited, but they don't have a consistent energy. So they have relied a lot on generators, who is the energy type who has a very consistent energy. They're like the workers, the bee workers, they have like this consistent motor. They're the life force. They do all day long, right? So the manifestors have been using the generators' energies for a lot of time to get their stuff done. And now it's really time for generators to do what they want to do. And manifestors used to be the ones that were in charge because they had this like very overpowering authoritarian energy. But now, since the whole system is changing and we're not looking at a pyramidic system, but more like a more horizontal, sorry. The projectors are like those CEOs that now have the door open and people can come in and ask them stuff, and they will guide you. So it's not overpowering, but it's really guiding the team and just like thinking in a different structure than business used to be, or like what a leader used to be. And then we have the generating manifestors, and the generating manifestors are this new modern hybrid between a manifestor and a generator, and they're super quick. They're here to do both. So they have the generating energy that's consistent, but they also have this power to initiate like the manifestor. And then we have what we call the unicorns in human design, which are the reflectors, because they're only 1%. But they're only 1% because they have a very important role. They're here to reflect. So they show us in what state our society is. When we look at a reflector, what we like or dislike in a reflector is what's wrong or society. So placing the center of your business is going to show you, okay, this is where I need to improve. This is where we're doing well. So it's always good to have a reflector in the center of your business, to have somebody who's showing you what's going on.
So interesting. And I think you told me I'm a projector?
Yes, you're a projector.
But I have to say, I wasn't 100% sure about my birth hour, actually. I thought this is not that important, so I need to ask my mom. I need to ask my mom what my birth hour was. I think I said 6 a.m. or so, but I will, now that I know it goes down to the minute, I will ask her again and find that out. It just makes me think personally, when I've had different careers in my short time on this planet already, and I always felt like there was something missing up until now. Now I found that this is what I want to do. Since I've been listening to my soul, since I've been listening to my intuition, since I've really went within, I just think this is an incredible tool to give people at hand, either by themselves, and even when they get out of university already. Hey, you should really do human design.
Who always said this is an amazing tool for children, Because
Yes.
what we can do, that if we understand our children and understand who they authentically are, we can avoid conditioning them. We can avoid, for example, a generating manifester. A generating manifester is here to show us that you don't have to, from A to C, you don't have to go through B. Like, you can be jumping around the place, you can try different things. They're like interested in a thousand different things. They have 10 projects at the time, and that's right for them. They have incredible amount of energy. They're constantly like researching and interested in trying. And many times what's correct for them is just trying things and not forcing them to finish things. But society tells you if you start something and you don't finish it, you're not never going to have success, you're lazy, you're not whatever. All the shadow aspects are coming into telling somebody no. So what happens? The generating manifester is like forcing their energy, wasting their precious energy into finishing a book they don't want to read anymore, finishing a course they're not interested anymore. And they're doing that because they've been taught, no, this is wrong, you are wrong. So human design is allowing them to be like, no, you're actually here to just try out different things, to get a taste of a lot of different things, because that's how your way is your path is formed, right? So if you know this in a child, and the child is doing ballet classes or piano classes or karate classes, and they don't want to do it anymore, you can be like, you know what, that's fine. You tried it, you found out what you like, what you didn't like, you learned your lesson. Let's try something new. Instead of being like, oh no, we did this and now you have. So the whole conditioning pattern can like be stopped already at such a young age, which allows us to be authentic in our life future down the line.
What you just said is 100% describing me as a child. And it's funny that you pick it out now in this conversation or say this, because I just a few days ago, I literally said, I was speaking with my mom about conditioning, and that you pick up as a child, whether you want it or not. And I said to her that even though I had a beautiful childhood, I really did. But there were things that I picked up as well that I had to get rid of.
Yeah.
And I said to her, for example, as a child, I tried everything. I tried tennis, I tried running, I tried piano, I tried it all. And there was one sentence that just stuck to me in my mind for so long, where my mom said, you always start things and you never finish them. She didn't even say it in a bad way or so, not at all. She didn't mean that. She just said it because that is what I did. But then in my mind, I felt, okay, there's something wrong with me. And I had to overcome that, but I had to learn that about myself, because what then happened from that point onwards, I forced myself into careers that weren't meant for me. And I stuck through because I thought, now I have to prove it. At the point where I realized I don't have to prove anything, that's when I broke out. But this is a perfect example of that. And I just wish that somebody would have given me that tool early on to say, no, it's, as you say, it's perfectly fine for you to try different things. And there's nothing to be ashamed of or anything. And just help you through your soul's journey.
This is super interesting because I gave the example of what a manifesting generator is. But we're both projectors, and I have the same. I tried a lot of things in my life. I had the same conditioning. You never finish anything, and it made me feel really bad. And there's different aspects how this can show up. So on one side, there's the profile, which is your karma and your role in this world and how you show up and how you learn. And I'm a 3/5, which it sounds like you might be as well, because we are people, the 3s are people who learn by trying. So we're really those people who get their hands dirty, who show other people. Like the 1 is if you have a 1 in your profile, you're the investigator. If you have a 2 in your profile, you just know stuff. So we as a 3 are here to show other people so they don't have to. But we are really the ones that have to fall with our face on the floor and learn by doing. And I always give the example of a light bulb. So the first light bulb, tried it out, it didn't end up working well, it broke, they tried another one, it was better as the one, but it still didn't work. So they did another one and another one and another, and this is how the 3 operates. So the good thing and the interesting thing about the 3 is that when we honor that we are really here to try out things, it also means that we have this innate talent to see when something isn't working anymore. So we are quick to leave things because we're quick to say, okay, this is not it. I know this is not it.
Yes.
Okay?
And actually, this is a strength in itself, to know when to leave, to know when to quit. But society tells you have to stick things through. You really don't. I always say it's incredible. It's actually a strength if you know when to leave. If you know when to leave a relationship,
Absolutely.
a job, or whatnot, like saying no.
But this is obviously, this is like a general truth, but it's especially important to honor that if it's in your authenticity, if you have the 3-5 profile, because many times it might be an obstacle that you're supposed to conquer if you're not a 3-5. But if you are a 3-5, you know that, okay, I realize that this is not working. I'm going to try something else. And also what's very interesting, for example, talking about these kind of things, discipline and consistency are two things that we're very conditioned to. And there's something that are called the variables, which are the arrows that are on top of the hat on your body graph. And if you have all arrows pointing to the left, you're somebody that thrives on consistency and discipline, which is like the old paradigm. But now in the new paradigm that we're entering in 2021, really it's more that the arrows are showing to the right, and it means that things should be more fluid, more with the flow. And a lot of times people who have the arrows to the right, they're like, oh my God, consistency doesn't work for me. Oh my God, discipline is not good for me. I'm never going to be successful because if I don't have discipline, successful. But it's the opposite. It means that you do not need discipline to become successful, to fulfill your calling in this life. So there's really all these little tools that help us understand us and be like, oh wow, that's why this has never worked. That's why I feel drained if I try to force things. And being allowed to be like, wow, now all these feelings that I had are like true because that's who I am. And being like, okay, the authentic expression of ourselves is unique in this world. That is our purpose. A lot of people think their purpose is like having a job, having the house, like that's my purpose. But really your purpose is expressing who you are authentically on a daily basis. It's sharing your gifts on a daily basis. It's showing up as who you are, unique on a daily basis. That's your purpose.
Beautiful. I think this is exactly it, because a lot of people mistake purpose with their job or whatnot, or they find the word purpose so scary they don't even want to think about it. And what you just said is it's just simply being you and bringing some light into this world.
Yes.
And one thought that I had just thinking about the whole concept of having different types of people, human design people in a business world, this would be such a game changer, because I now think back on my time in consulting, where basically a batch of new analysts, about, I don't know, say 100 analysts, they start on the 1st of September of each year, and they get put through this 2-year analyst program, and everyone is being treated the same. Everyone is being given the same goals and things to tick and things to do and things to say and not to say. And I think so many people must be struggling with this, because obviously that concept works for some, but for the majority it probably doesn't, including myself. And there's only so much time that you can actually do this and keep up without feeling depleted. So this would be a complete game changer to get everyone through an assessment like this and craft their individual path. And not have this is interesting, because in Deloitte, for example, where I worked, there is a very clear path to get promoted. There's only one path, and it has like steps that you have to take throughout the year, and only that step, no other step. And there's even on that step, you have to take 5 different sub-steps. And if you over-delivered on the first 4 ones, but you under-delivered on the other one, you don't get promoted. And that just doesn't work in appreciating that we all have different beings and thrive in different ways.
Knowing human design in a business environment is just going to help your business exponentially, because you can get the best and the most out of everybody you're working with, including yourself. So for example, if you have a manifestor, it's going to be great at initiating projects. It's going to be great to get people on board and excited about an idea. A manifestor is great to get new clients, to do sales call, everything that's reaching out. The manifestor is your go-to. Everything that is just like working, grinding, long hours, keeping like a good mood, just putting in the time is going to be a generator. A generator is going to be your best friend, getting things, done. The projector is going to be amazing to guide, to see, to be like, listen, in this, we can do things quicker, easier, with less resistance. They're really here to help a system that already exists. They're not here to create a wheel, but they're here to make it better. So they're going to be great at guiding you. And the manifesting generator is really somebody that you can use for both. They're great just to be by your side, to put energy into people. So if you put a projector with the manifesting generator, the projector is going to have energy through their time with the manifesting generator. So putting people together is also, you can really create dynamics and just achieve your goals so much faster. Because if you put a projector and they're doing your sales, the result is going to be really bad, because their strategy is waiting for the invitation. So they're not supposed to reach out to anybody. They're supposed to wait for people to reach out for them. So they're going to be depleted in their energy. They're not going to be fulfilling their purpose. It's just going to be like, they're going to feel resistance, and it's just going to stagnate the growth of your business. So understanding your human design, understanding everybody else's human design is really just such a great tool to maximize potential.
Absolutely. And just hearing this just makes me think it's such a no-brainer that this is not yet in the business world, because not only does it maximize your business potential, but also everyone will benefit from this on an individual level, because you feel more comfortable at work, you do what you're actually meant to do. And it's
imagine HR knowing human design. They're going to sit those people together because they understand, okay, those work well together, those we're going to put together. Because later, like if we go into the specific gates of your chart, really, like sometimes maybe somebody has this innate capacity to, but they're not meant to actually do it, just to see where things can get better. But then they get together with somebody who's supposed to do things better. So one has the view, the other one has the action. And if they get together, they can create better things. They can better everything in your company. So all these like really little details are just amazing. And people will feel more fulfilled. They will feel more seen, more motivated.
I actually have a good example of that in my own company without knowing human design, obviously, because I'm just learning about it now. But I'm, as you say, I don't remember what the type was, but I learned by going out, trying and doing it again.
Yes.
And I have somebody on my team who likes to keep to herself and just does stuff in the background. And when I asked her what does she like about working at humanplus, she said, I don't have to push myself out of my comfort zone, which is what people always tell you. You have to push yourself out of the comfort zone. And we had this conversation. I said, I never looked at it even that way. I never had that on my radar, but it's true. I just put her in a role where she can do her stuff and feel 100% comfortable. Whereas I'm a different type. Like, I need to push myself out of the comfort zone. This is how I learn. This is what I need to do. But she doesn't have to do this, and she shouldn't be, if that's what she wants. There's plenty of opportunity to do it, but if she doesn't feel like this is what she wants to do, she can still grow. And she grows every single day, every week, and she's delivering amazing work. And we together work amazing as a team. And she's not pushing herself out of the
I'm so fascinated. I'd love to know what her energy type is. She might be a generator. It is, and projectors work really well together. But I'm curious. I'm super curious. I'm so fascinated by how people work together.
I will have to find out about everyone's human design on my team, including myself.
Definitely.
Because, again, like this happened without knowing about human design. But it seems that, and this is the thing, like for me, it's always a learning process. I tune in and I tune into other people's energies, and therefore I let them be who they are. But not everyone does that. So just giving.
But you know why you can tune so well into other people's energies? Because you're a projector and you have this capacity to see into other people. So you have a greater capacity to understand the other individual. So that's why you can allow to do that. And other people might not have that. They have other strengths.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm grateful that I have that ability and can just do that. But for other people who have different strengths, for them, it would just be incredible to have a tool like human design and have that institutionalized and normalized in a context where they can just use it and speak about it with their manager and speak about it in their team. And this is really the future of business.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. There are some people like who are starting to use human design in their businesses. And even if people are skeptical, that's the thing. The moment that they hear the information about themselves or they see the result of what they've learned, it's just, it's a no-brainer. Like, that's the thing. You can be all skeptical all you want, but once you get a reading, you're like, oh, okay. And that's so fascinating.
Beautiful. This was so insightful, Maike. I really appreciate having you on the podcast and talking about this openly. I learned so much from this. Normally, I would ask, what are the 3 key takeaways that listener can take away from this conversation and implement in their lives? But I think this one is actually a fairly obvious one. Get your human design reading done.
Get your human design, find out your energy type, understand your strategy, and listen to your authority. Like, those 3 things are really the most important things to know.
Beautiful. Where can people find you, Maike?
I have an Instagram account. You can find me at Maike Gabriela, and you can book a reading at www.maikegabriela.com. I do readings in English, Spanish, and German. So yeah, feel free to contact me, and let's figure it out. I'm so excited to give people readings because it's just such a beautiful experience. So if this resonates with you, if you're curious, let me know.
Amazing. I will put all the information in the show notes so people can reach out to you. And it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Kat, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.